Cañas can write longing phenomenally.
Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video we are going to be doing an author taste test for Isabel Cañas. Alright, before I get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments, have you tried this author's work? Did you enjoy it? Let's talk about it. If you are new to my channel, when it comes to an author, I give them 2 chances, and if they don't work out, I won't be touching any more of their stuff. In order for me to do a taste test for an author, that means I have to have 2 or more of their books on my TBR, which was the case with Isabel Cañas after I heard about her newest book, Vampires del Norte. This one won me over with the blurb alone. I actually requested a copy of it from NetGalley, but unfortunately got turned down. The blurb says, vampires and vaqueros face off on the Texan-Mexican border in the supernatural Western. That's kind of all you need to know. This story is set in roughly the 1940s in Mexico, following a young girl whose father owns a large bit of land. As a child, she and her best friend Nestor go out late at night and end up being attacked by something. Nestor believes that Nina ended up dying in this attack and ran from the property, has not returned since. 10 years later, however, it turns out that is not the case, and when Nestor returns to try and assist the landowner fighting against the Yankees, the Texas Rangers, they also come to find out that there is something more terrifying encroaching on the land as well. I've heard literally only positive things about this so far, but thankfully I did hear to go into this expecting more of a romance-based story. Probably pretty helpful, seeing as how this is sold as horror. On the opposite side, I picked up this author's debut work, The Hacienda. Initially, I wasn't super drawn to this because it was being sold as very reminiscent to Mexican Gothic. But when this was picked for a buddy read in Jen Agaton's Lair, I decided, what the hey, okay, I'll try it out. This one is a Gothic haunted house story, very reminiscent to Rebecca, in which we are following a woman who has recently married a very rich and powerful lord, and while she is determined to take power over this hacienda, apparently the house has other ideas. I am so excited to dive into both of these books, so I will talk to y'all again when I have started into one of them. Hey y'all, so I have hit the halfway point into the hacienda. Right out of the get-go, this atmosphere, fantastic. Solid Gothic vibes that are just completely surrounding the story. I think the author has really laid out the setting magnificently. I definitely appreciate the fact that Cañas utilizes pieces of Mexican history within the story as well. Our main character, Beatrice's father, actually was executed during the Mexican War for Independence from Spain. Already there have been mentions of mestizos suffering from prejudice in this area. I really enjoy that, especially with this sort of a setting. I appreciate that the author is actually utilizing that within the story. Our main character, Beatrice, I was endeared to her pretty quickly. I think with the knowledge of her father's death and seeing the repercussions that's had on her family, it allows us to really easily understand Beatrice's motivations. Comfort she finds in this small amount of power she has, even if it's only over the hacienda. The house is definitely not making that easy on her. We see that Beatrice is definitely aware of her role in society. She has already dealt with classism and colorism, even being as wealthy as she is. Those elements also add to her determination to have power, and I think that just made her more enticing for me. After arriving at the hacienda, we see her change from being this demure new wife into a woman who is taking charge and trying to restore this hacienda to its glory that she can see under all of the decay that's taking place. Though her sister-in-law is a force to be reckoned with in herself, not even acknowledging the haunted house element. So quickly though, after we do arrive at the hacienda, the story takes a turn for the dark and creepy, a lot more eerie. There's some disturbing imagery whenever Beatrice experiences these otherworldly, very unsettling things, which is why she then enlists the help of our other main character, Padre Andreas. So the one thing about this book that I knew going into it, apart from like a very, very sparse synopsis, was that there was a bit of a forbidden romance going on between our 2 main characters. That gets alluded to very early in the story, so I don't really consider it very serious spoiler territory, which is why I don't have a problem telling you that, but I'm sorry if you think otherwise. Andreas on his own is a very intriguing character. We get to learn a little bit about his backstory as well, how he came to be in the clergy, his place in this town, the role he plays with it, and along with that, the fact that he has ties to this hacienda too, which is why he wants to try and cleanse it, wants to try and restore it as well in a more spiritual sense, but at the same time he is finding himself being drawn to Beatrice, and I guess it's the forbidden element that I'm really loving here. I think they also just have a very good dynamic. They tend to be a little lighter around each other. They aren't so weighed down by the rules of society in each other's presence, and there's some good banter occasionally, which I'm just hanging on every little bit of that. But with that, I do have to say I wish there was a more even breakdown in the perspectives. It feels like it's maybe 70% Beatrice and 30% Andreas, where I would prefer a more 50-50. Thus far, I'm definitely really engaged. I'm also really intrigued to see where things are gonna go with this. I could probably go for some more horrific imagery because I think the author writes it very well, and I also think it would just ratchet up the terrifying factor of the story, but I know this is more of a gothic book, so it's not gonna have a ton of body horror. I feel like the author has done really well in what little bits we have seen, so I want more of that. Maybe her next book will have a little bit more, I'm not sure. I mean, to be fair, I'm only at the halfway point, so this book alone could also have more of it. We'll see. But at this moment, I am enjoying it, and I would have to estimate my rating at like 4 stars. I'm actually kind of bummed I didn't get a copy of this because I'm liking this way more than I was anticipating, honestly. I had very mid expectations about it whenever I started it, but now I'm really liking it. Hey y'all, so I have finished out the hacienda, which is perfect timing because Vampires of El Norte literally came in today. Wow. As I got further in, the themes of religion definitely were amped up. The discussions around the competing religions in the story, pagan and witchcraft-based beliefs versus Catholicism, and of course, I was all over that because I love religious discussions in my stories. The prejudice about non-Christian beliefs, yet how the townspeople cling to some of these practices even still. Way specifically on Andreas, we were able to see how they can practice both of those faiths at the same time and bring them together to create a faith that fits perfectly with their own beliefs. I really loved seeing that. Off of that, seeing the prejudice that Andreas has experienced because he practices such beliefs. I definitely think the first half of this book spends a lot more time building up Beatrice's character, whereas the latter half spends a lot of time delving into Andreas's, and I liked that. I liked the dichotomy of it. Speaking of those two, the tension between them continues throughout majority of the book, and we do have a bit of a resolution to the romance plotline, but in my opinion, it just wasn't really as satisfying as I was wanting. Unfortunately, that wasn't the only element of the ending that I didn't find satisfying. I feel like the climax itself wasn't as strong as it could have been. The villain character is named quite early on at the end. First off, I found that quite predictable. But then it's as though once they were named, the suspense that had been building kind of just plummeted in me. Yes, the climax still is fast-paced. It still has some serious stakes. But I don't know, I felt like the suspense wasn't really there. I don't know, I wasn't on the edge of my seat reading it. And not only that, but I felt like there were some serious holes in the logic around the villain's actions. So I did enjoy this book. I would probably say I really enjoyed 80% of it, but the ending left something to be desired. So my rating came out to a low 4-star. I still enjoyed this. I think it's a very well done gothic book. The author's atmosphere work, phenomenal. Really enjoy the tie-ins to Mexican history and culture. Love seeing that. And I am really intrigued now to get into Vampires of El Norte and hopefully see some improvements off of my issues with this book.
Hey y'all, so I have hit the halfway point into Vampires of El Norte. And okay, starting at the top, I gotta say, thus far this feels much more like a romance story, a forbidden historical romance story. It does have a horror plot line going on, but that doesn't bother me because, wow, Cañas can write longing phenomenally. She fills her words with so much emotion, and some of the lines she's dropping just have me completely enamored. Nestor has my whole heart, okay? I want to state that. Nestor is amazing. I love him. He is a hot little mess at times, but I love him. Cañas's atmosphere work is also impeccable. I really enjoy the tie-ins she has showcased to Mexican history as well as Mexican folklore. Both of those have been woven into the story seamlessly. This feels like a gothic western, which is just like two things I don't usually think to pair together, but I'm really enjoying it. And it works so well with the story that is being created. Like I said, majority of the time, I'm very focused on the forbidden historical romance that is taking place. It makes the shift to really creepy, unsettling scenes all the more shocking, all the more impactful, and I really enjoy that. But again, the characters she has created, both Nina and Nestor, feel so real, feel so raw. There is so much emotion underlying every single interaction between these two. It's so interesting how she's managed to make me feel conflicted about their relationship, because on one hand, I want them to talk, I want them to explain everything so badly, but at the same time, I loved it when Nina stood up for herself against Nestor and slammed the door in his face. No, that is not a metaphor. I'm being serious. And the implications behind how she reacts to him are all the better because Nestor is the only man she could ever be this callous to, because she knows he won't do anything serious to her. He won't put her in danger. He won't threaten her himself. And like the significance of that is just delicious.
Just take him with you.
This finally started to push the boundary into horror territory at about the halfway point. There is a battle scene that is quite horrific, quite gory, but then it is closely followed by a reveal of the titular characters, and I'm very intrigued to see more of them. Across both of these books now, I have to say, Cañas does a phenomenal job of mixing two genres that are usually quite opposite, somehow managing to fit them together. Very impressive. I am adoring this one though. I never estimate 5 stars because it never goes well, but I really want to estimate this at 4.5 because I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. I would not be surprised if I finish it tonight, honestly.
Hey loves, so I have finished out Vampires of El Norte, and oh my god, I loved this. I loved it. I loved it. It was so good. I do have to say though, if you go into this expecting a horror story, you're probably going to be disappointed. You have to go in expecting a romance with horrific elements. That was a marketing issue. I fully agree it was a marketing issue, but that does not mean I didn't love this. I loved how it was handled. I loved the way Cañas interwove these two genres together. The lead up to the final climax had my heart in a vice. Oh my god. I wanted to shake both characters so much, only for there to be this exciting change of pace that reminded me, oh yeah, this is technically billed as a horror book. The twist that was revealed with the vampires was unexpected, and I really liked the emotion it invoked because of it, but I thought it was very interesting, especially with the sort of story that had been set up here. And then the finale, the epilogue, like, it was so good. Are you freaking kidding me? Come on, that was just great. I loved it. This book really built off what I liked in the Hacienda and just made it better. Again, it's all about marketing though. If you go into this expecting horror alone, you're probably gonna be disappointed. The atmosphere is just absolutely phenomenal. The relationship between these two characters is so well done. It was so raw. I loved it. It had me going on a roller coaster of emotions. I also just tend to really enjoy stories where there are two characters who don't like each other, but they become reliant on the other person to survive. And I think this worked very well for me in that regard because the romantic tension there just like amplified everything all the more. This was 5 stars. Freaking loved this. This is probably gonna be a new favorite for me, if I'm being completely honest. Unexpected, not mad. I am definitely gonna check out more of Isabel Cañas' work off of this because the Hacienda was good. There were aspects of it I really enjoyed. The writing, absolutely phenomenal. But again, I think Vampires of El Norte took everything that was good there and just like amped it up 3 notches to make it fantastic. I cannot wait to see what more she comes out with, especially if she keeps going with this historical romance horror genre. It works so well for her writing style.
for her strengths in her writing too.
All right, y'all, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials as well as a few ways you can support me linked in the description. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!